With all the changes to the algorithms, to the search engines, AI here, AI there, AI slop, I totally get it. It's a lot to take in and it's a lot to really process when it comes to deciding what would the future for the creator look like for the rest of the year and in the coming years as all of these technologies continue to evolve. It all comes back, in my opinion, to a single thing: the value. Yes, the value that you provide to your viewers. You've heard me in the past talk about this concept, but I wanted to do a little bit of a refresher and really look at it from the perspective of three categories, right? From the perspective of the algorithm and all the changes that are happening there, perspective from the brand deals and AdSense and its influence on, obviously, your bottom line, and of course, thinking about other potential revenue streams for you as a creator. And yes, one of those things I'm kind of like stealing from, I think I heard it referred to like the music production these days, is that creating a video have never been easier with all the tools available to us, which was true several years ago, but especially true right now in the advent of all the AI tools. And also thinking about how hard it is right now to create a hit, right? To create something that really amasses this kind of like viral moment. And there are a lot more considerations there in terms of the niches and things that are happening in the industry, but I wanted to really focus all of this conversation from just the perspective of these three topics. Starting with the algorithm, the few questions that's kind of like I want you to think as you're deciding on how you can maximize the value that you're providing to your viewer is that really asking yourself, why is the viewer hiring you? What's the reason? Is it the specific knowledge, specific experience, access to information, the promptness of how fast you deliver the information? In a world that we kind of like look at it as a creator economy, but now really just evolving to be a regular economy, it's all about this, like what I call three circles, right? The three types of job that the creator can hire, that the viewer can hire you as a creator for. It is educate, entertain, or inform, right? And from that perspective, a lot of you can be in between two or maybe even in the middle, covering all three. But there's really some other specificity to it, right? Besides just the value itself. Again, it can come back to who you are as a personality, the kind of access to information you have, or the kind of experience you bring to the table. So you really need to understand it. The reason why it's important, because combined with the human element, you bring something unique to the table that gets people to come back and watch you over and over and over again. And that, together with that uniqueness of your perspective and the reason why the viewer is hiring you to do, can help you overcome these changes to the algorithm. And if you're not familiar, the way YouTube changes right now is that, and by the way, not only YouTube, it's also other platforms. I think, funny enough, Twitter was the first one to experiment with this, is that they now allow essentially a viewer to interact with AI tool and progressively tell the tool to say like, hey, here's how you should shape my personal algorithm when it comes to the recommendations. Where it makes it different is that in the past, when, I don't know, 5 to 10 years ago, early on in my career, there were a lot of conversations about how you can kind of like game algorithm by like uploading the videos of 10 minutes long plus. That was a meta at some point. Doing certain things in the first 30 seconds, right? Like if you retain the viewer through the first 30 seconds, the video will be recommended at a higher degree to kind of like other circles that look alike like that audience. There are a lot of other metas that I'm forgetting about right now, but essentially the idea was always the fact that there's some way you can game the algorithm and kind of like put your video in front of the eyeballs that might eventually like it. That gradually became less and less true. These days I roll my eyes at anyone who is like trying to sell a course on like, or make a video about like, and these are the 5 ways how you can game the algorithm. It all comes back to the value today. It was always the truth. It's just people didn't necessarily have to focus on it as much because there were other ways to get your video in front of the viewer. But now, and especially with these changes to the algorithm, where instead of one algorithm, now you potentially have infinite number, like the n of algorithms is equal to the n of total viewers on YouTube, right? So you cannot game every single one of them. And what you have to do is you have to keep coming back to the fact that, do you really understand why the viewer is hiring you to? Do you bring that human element into your content? And do you have unique enough of perspective that the viewer is interested enough and they feel like they gain the value from consuming your content for that specific job? From there, the second section, thinking about the brand deals and AdSense, there are a few other things that you have to consider. Right now, we have another player. We don't only have ourselves and our audience, now we also have the brand deals and people who are purchasing the ads directly to place in your videos or through AdSense. And here, I think the key items for you to keep in mind is the fact that you have cultivated the trust of your audience and you need to continue to do so. Like the trust of your audience is this ultimate, I think, transactionary value that you can provide to the brands beyond anything that any kind of like AI slop content can do, or any kind of like creator who just creates all this like spam type of content, right? Like if you specifically as a creator have a very specific niche, you're really good at it, you really have the trust of your audience, you'll be able to leverage that when it comes to producing the brand deals, even if the views that you currently get are less than what they used to be. And the reason for that is the quality of the audience is what matters, right? If you're not familiar, from the perspective of the marketing, if I'm a CMO or any kind of marketing leader, quantity of the impressions ultimately is a vanity metric. It means nothing. What is the factor for me to be judged as someone who is doing a job well is how many sales, subscriptions, conversions that I've achieved as a marketing leader from all the marketing spend that I've made. And that's how I think about the ROI, return on the investment of every advertising dollar. And so from the perspective of the audience that I'm trying to target, the impressions do not matter, because even in a world where I get million views on a particular asset that I've produced as a marketer, but I only get one conversion, versus maybe an asset that only generated 10 views, but it created two conversions, that asset is much more valuable to me because I have two conversions, twice the amount from the other one. And so that's where you come in as a creator, because if you have your trusted audience, you really understand the value that they provide. It kind of like echoes to some of these sections. But you now have, through their trust, can offer that much higher quality audience that's much better fit for the brand that you're working with. That audience will be so much more valuable to them, even if, say, in the past your channel used to do like, I don't know, 100,000 views per video, and now maybe you're at 50,000. If you had 50,000, but those 50,000 are highly qualified, meaning they're highly great fit for the sponsor who is about to purchase brand deal with you, you can still command the same or even higher price per CPM, per conversion, or per video ad placement, because of the fact that you can point back and say, hey, you are interested in looking for a specific type of audience with a specific interest and specific purpose that they're trying to achieve, right? Like, I don't know, money saving, cooking, whatever the channel might be. I can offer you that, and this is why I think my price is valuable. And it doesn't matter how many subscribers or views I get per video, as long as I get you access to that qualified, high quality audience. And this is where also the feedback loop is important, in my opinion, because ultimately, especially when it comes to brand deals, it's people buying from people, right? In your case, your audience are people buying the service from you by consuming the certain type of content that satisfies a certain type of job. You working with the brand, it's you cultivating the relationships and building a relationship with the marketers or the agencies or whoever else is procuring and helping you achieve that brand deal. And so for me, I think it's important for you to also be there to help maybe educate them, right? Like if you observe something that's maybe they're doing wrong, maybe they're not asking a specific question, maybe they're not thinking about how to address your audience in a specific way that you know how to address because you know that audience so well. You should provide that feedback. Provide it constructively, explain where you think it can be improved, provide that improvement yourself. And maybe if, say, they gave you the script and you feel like, hey, the script does not really speak to the audience the way they prefer to hear the information like this, retool it, propose it to them. Be like, hey, here is a script. Here's how I think it's going to work better. Let's test it, guys. Like, if, say, they sign up with you with a brand deal for the next 3 videos, maybe do one their script, one your script, see how it perform. And for the 3rd video, you guys can decide and double down on one of those scripts. But provide that feedback loop. Because if they now know that it's not only the trust about the audience to you, but it's also the fact that brands now trust you, that kind of relationship that you're going to cultivate is going to last you years. Potentially, right? Assuming, again, the business is doing well on their end, of course. But there is now an opportunity for you to create long-lasting relationships that potentially will enable you to sell out all of your slots across all of your videos and not have to worry about continuously searching out there for more and more brand deals, because you've cultivated a few but highly trusted relationships with the brands that now continue to come back to you because, again, they know that you have the trust of the audience, they have your trust, you have their trust, and the quality of the audience that they need to pursue is right there. And then that brings us to the 3rd section of actual revenue streams, because now we spoke about obviously how do you get the eyeballs in your videos. We spoke about how you potentially fund it as brand deals continues to be the primary fund, but you also need to start thinking about, as always, about what are my other revenue streams that I can pursue. And sorry, this thing just annoys me slightly because I didn't use the dot on all the other ones. Consistency. So what else can satisfy the job, right? This is the question. I've just literally went to Press Publish LA, right? And there were a few creators and we're talking about, hey, what is my advice to them when it comes to them? They're thinking about monetization. I've made videos about this, but to reiterate, the best way to think about how you can potentially expand your revenue streams is really start asking yourself, okay, I'm satisfying certain job, right? From my content. Like again, I educate, entertain, inform. I do certain things within the specific niche. They hire me because of my expertise, for example. What else can achieve that job? And I use frequently the example of the cooking channel, right? Like as a cooking channel, people usually come to you primarily say, let's pick an example, to learn a certain recipe, to learn how to cook. So what else can they do? They can purchase a digital book, they can purchase a physical book, they can go and take an in-person class. So those are the good examples then for you to start thinking about as a cooking creator, like, hey, can I write a digital book? Can I write a physical book? Can I host in-person classes now across different towns? Maybe do like a tour of cooking classes in person. So there are ways then for you to start thinking about, okay, this addresses the same type of value, the same type of need that I was hired for as a content creator. So let me now expand. So I would strongly encourage you to think about your niche, think about the type of content, why the viewer is hiring your content, and then you leverage that to start thinking about, okay, what else can satisfy that job and can I do it better than other incumbents who may be already issuing cooking books or doing other things in your niche. Think about the concepts of recurring versus one-time revenues, right? Like, so cooking and all those kind of things, again, using the example, cooking books, it's usually one-time revenue, right? People buy that book, they buy it once, and that's pretty much the end of the transaction until you release, say, the next cooking book. Recurring revenue can be you created a website with very unique recipes, and maybe there's like hands-on recipe where you take them from your POV recording as a creator for every single recipe you record a video. That can be hidden behind a paywall, right? And you can create again, whether it's a Patreon, dedicated premium subscription service, YouTube memberships, but now you're essentially creating an experience for them that they can keep coming back to, and it's additive and on top of the value that your channel already provides for free. And so maybe they're willing to, commit $5 a month or $6 a month, something like this, for you to essentially continue that service. And that is a good structure because it provides you the stability. And there's this whole, right, like famous, I'm sure you heard it before, like 1,000 true fans. And if imagine a situation where you're running pretty lean organization, right, like pretty lean business, like 1,000 people subscribe at $5 gives you about $5,000 a month of recurring revenue on top of the brand deals and all the other things you're doing on the channel, which creates a really solid foundation for you to potentially continue investing in your business, right? And maybe instead of now you editing both main channel stuff and a subscription service stuff, maybe you allocate a portion of that 5,000 to hire an editor who does it for you, right? And it elevates the pressure from you in terms of the capacity, but also enables you to continue kind of like to grow both in parallel, because your main channels, all of your stuff that you're already doing on other platforms, it's kind of like top of the funnel, what I described, from which people will eventually trickle into that subscription service or into that product purchase, whether it's physical or digital. So you still have to do all the stuff at the top, but that means that additional recurring nature of the revenue can give you confidence to say, hey, maybe I can go and invest into additional resource to help me manage that capacity. And that's why the capacity is an important one here, because I talk a lot to the creators, right, about potentially creating different subscription services, and the capacity is always the biggest roadblock in my experience. It's like, oh my god, like I'm barely surviving managing my main channel, and you're telling me I have to somehow come up with yet another maybe 1 to 2 videos a week to support this particular subscription, right? Which is a tough decision, and I think the one you should not take lightly. But if you do, again, there are a lot of benefits to it. And it again all comes back to the value, because any kind of service like this, or again, digital physical product that you produce, it needs to address the same value, right? That you're already generating for the viewer, because it ultimately starts and stops with the viewers receiving the value that they feel is justified for you then to ask to chip in, whether it's with a one-time purchase, whether it is with a subscription service, or whether it's by, honestly, watching an ad of a brand deal that you made, right? That's why it always comes back to the value. So that doesn't change, right? Like that's always been the case. And as I said, I feel like with all these tools that are coming out, the nature of our relationship with the viewer did not change. It just, again, there's a lot more noise in the system, and the tools that used to help us break through the noise no longer work because it's just deafening now, right? And that's where it all keeps coming back to the central point of, as long as you provide the value to your consumer, right, to your viewer in this case, they will keep coming back to your content. Their creators, again, no matter all these changes, their creators are still come back and watch. And even if I'm not subscribed to them, because I frequently rotate my feed to kind of like keep learning about new YouTubers, I still come back and I see the video like, yes, I trust this person. I trust their opinion on these kind of topics. I have 10 minutes. I'm doing something else, or like I'm sitting down for lunch. I'm going to check it out and I'm going to watch it. So always keep coming back to this concept. And this is where finally I kind of like wanted to point out that it brings us to kind of like these, I would say truths, right? I call it. Three of the ones that I just wanted to kind of like use as a way to summarize this entire concept of why you should not be too worried about the noise as long as you're doing the right things when it comes to providing the value. And the first one, obviously, recurring theme of like, oh my God, is AI replacing me? Will YouTube run their own AI models to both not only manage the algorithm, but also maybe create the content so they can just put the ads, but not pay 45-50% rev share to us as creators, right? I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's replacing you, but you do have to evolve, right? Like old playbooks no longer work. You have to change the ways you do things, and you don't need to overthink it, because ultimately, as you work on this, as long as you can come back to the fact that you still provide good value to your viewer, nothing else matters genuinely. Like there, as I said, there might be a little bit more noise for certain things, but if you continue to provide the value, the viewers will keep coming back, right? No matter what the algorithm changes are making, no matter how much AI slop is out there, no matter what else is happening, people will come back to you if you provide them with the value when it comes to whatever the job that they were hiring you to do. And yes, the second truth, it's a fact that our jobs as creators are now way more complex, but there are more tools and the knowledge that have ever existed. Like there's abundance of tools, whether you want to do certain things a little bit better, whether it's, color grading, music mixing, just sound mixing, better microphones, lights, cameras, right? Like there's so much more. And there's so much more like graphics. Now you're no longer constrained to the fact that you have to learn Blender or whatever, Maya back in the day. Now you can go and actually use some of these tools, right, to create some sort of visual effects within your videos without knowing the specifics of how to manage them, right? Like there's so much that is out there, which again can create the analysis paralysis and abundance of choice. But from the perspective of our job, I think as much as some of these changes make it harder because we have to think a little bit more about the value that we provide, it also makes our jobs a little bit easier here and there because we can do things faster. And that's the truth of it. And finally, algorithm chasing has been dead. That's something I've been saying, and not only me, a lot of people are saying, don't think of it as an algorithm, think of it as people, what the people would enjoy, and do it that way, right? But as I said, there were still some loopholes and ways for you to kind of like gamify the algorithm and get a few extra eyeballs on your videos. But what I've said throughout this entire video, it was always about the value. No matter how many times, again, those coaches, those people, the influencers were telling you, oh my God, you need to be doing these 5 things to chase the algorithm, to like game the algorithm and make a video pop. It works sometimes it didn't. What worked 100% of the time is that, did you provide the value that the viewer hired you to do? If you've been doing it in the past, you've been successful. If you're doing it right now, you are successful. If you will continue to do this and continue to focus and keep coming back to the fact that, is that next piece of content that I'm about to produce provides any kind of value that the viewer's hiring me to do? And if it does, that video will be good. Yes, as I said, the views might change, subscriber counts and gains might change, but ultimately the perfect way to clear through all of this noise of AI, algorithm changes, and all the changes on other various platforms, continue to produce valuable content. Notice even, it's not about 4K resolution, the best audio, the best color grading. It comes back to the job that the viewer hired your video to do. The reason why they clicked on your video is because they were searching for certain type of information, education, or entertainment. And if you delivered, you did a great job, and you did the job that you as a creator need to accomplish over and over again from video to video to be successful. And that's it. And I don't think, again, things will change in terms of the content and technologies. Who knows? In the future, we'll be making everything in 3D, and instead of the camera, I'll be like in your living room presenting all of this, right? Who knows? Maybe that's the future. But you know what? It's still not going to be about chasing algorithm or anything like that. It will be just about, am I providing you enough value for you to invite me in a 3D space in your room? Or whatever other format, pinging directly in your brain. I don't know. But I hope this was useful, and I'll see you next Saturday. Peace.